Hi there. So this is going to be another cordwood challenge video. Although I'm going to do the actual main challenge on a very limited basis this year. I think I'm just going to do one rick. Just because it's already the middle of March and I'm running out of time where I have to run out to the woods and chop. But the axe I've decided to use this year for the challenge is this very high quality Harbor Freight Pittsburgh 3.5 pound axe, which you can pick up at Harbor Freight for about $18 United States cash money. And I am not by any means recommending this axe. This axe is actually a piece of junk, and by no means should you buy it. And you have to do a ton of work to get them functional. I drew this little diagram to kind of show you, if you don't look at, this is kind of what, you know, I'm not going to talk about bevel angles or, you know, how to reprofile an axe or anything. There's lots of videos on that, and I pretty much freehand my axes, so I couldn't tell you what angles I use. But this is basically, if you look at the outside silhouette of this one, this is basically what these axes come like, you know, off the shelf. And that is not a usable profile for chopping. That is basically, you know, about as blunt as like a preschool pencil, that angle. And you have to take off all this dark stuff to get it, you know, this shaded area, to get it to something looking like this before you can get it to chop. And there's a ton of metal that you have to remove. So these are not, you know, remotely usable off the shelf. So I would also say the other problem with this axe is the handle, which is a very stiff fiberglass handle. And it is extremely uncomfortable to use. And in fact, you know, I chop right-handed, and so my left hand is at the base of the axe, and the swing gives you an incredible amount of hand shock when you're using it, because the handle is just far too stiff. It's basically like, there's almost no flex in the handle at all, and it just slaps the crap out of your hand. And by the next day, you wake up in the morning and you know, my elbow is in pain from like tennis elbow, from the vibration translated into your arm. So it's actually unhealthy to use these axes as they are configured. Even if you get them sharp enough to chop, the handle is actually terrible. And the other thing, the head is not securely, at least on this one, was not securely fixed. And after a very small time spent chopping, the whatever this resin is that was fixing the handle to the eye snapped loose, and now the head is like slipping around back and forth about, I don't know, a ½ inch in either direction on the handle. So the epoxy or whatever kind of resin they used to fix this handle on did not remain secure. So this is a piece of crap, and it's not a very good first axe to buy unless you have no other options. And then, because this handle is so uncomfortable, what I'm going to do before I do more of the challenge is I'm actually going to cut this off at the handle and rehang it on a wood handle, just so that I can make it safe and comfortable to use without hurting myself. Because otherwise this is just going to beat the crap out of my elbow by the time I get the challenge done. And so what I'm really interested in doing this year is I'm going to do a little bit of hewing. And I'm also interested in doing the mini challenge where we're making axe made joints. And then I'm just going to do one rick of the firewood of the main challenge. So I got started using this axe on this really questionable piece of white pine, just to test the axe out, really. And there ended up being a big rotten zone in this log, so I'm probably not even going to use this for anything, but I wanted to test it out to see you know, if I could even make it workable. And you can do workable work as far as hewing, and I've also split just a little bit of the white pine here, just as a test. So the axe functions. After I rehang it on a decent wood handle, it'll actually be a very functional tool, and I'll still be about $200 ahead of the game compared to, you know, purchasing, you know, a Swedish bespoke masterpiece from, you know, the dwarven smiths in Sweden. I've overspent. By the time I put the handle on this thing, I'll have overspent by about 200% of what I like to spend on an axe to get it running. So yeah, but I just wanted to see if I could get it to work. Okay, so let's just get rid of this handle. Okay, so it looks like most of the handle's plastic. There's the fiberglass core right there. Interesting. probably do it more easily this way. Maybe. Well, it wasn't hard. So, yeah, this is, you can see this is the resin, whatever that stuff is. And it didn't hold all of this black area. So, yeah, and I just bought a very cheap handle at the box store. You know, these are, if you look, these are not made on a pattern lathe. These are cut out of a board. But the grain is quite straight. There's very continuous grain, and it's not what they call perfect grain orientation. But these Trooper handles, I've used them before on other axes, and they're very serviceable, and they're quite cheap because they're not made on a lathe. So, you know, they've economized on the material. You just have to look for straight grain. Okay, so I have the axe rehung, and I have thinned down the handle, so you can see the flex now in the handle. That's kind of, let me see if I can get, that's what you want to see for shock absorption. It could probably use even a little bit more, so I'll probably shave it down a little bit. But I've gone ahead and started chopping. I cut down that little ash here, and then this ash, which is about, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches in diameter. And I've already cleaned up the tops, cleaned up that first tree completely. Oop. And then I've done the top of this tree. So we'll do a little chopping demo with this axe just to see how she flies. Ah. Okay, so there is my finished rick for the 2020 Cordwood Challenge, and I've kind of temporarily stacked it here in the woods. This stack is not that stable. It's starting to tip in this direction, so I'm gonna have to put some props on it or remove all the wood right away. But yeah, so it's not a 4x8 block. It's actually I just picked these trees because I thought they were about 8 foot apart, but they're actually 7 foot apart. So this is approximately a 7 by 5 foot square rectangle. I'm sorry. That's about what it is. It's a little shy of 5 feet, but it definitely gets to the proper minimum size for the rick. So I am done chopping firewood for the Cordwood Challenge, and I'm going to switch to doing the hewing and joinery challenges. And I'm going to continue using this axe. I don't love this axe, but it is workable. I don't recommend this axe just because I don't think it's a good value for money. There's too much time you have to spend to put it into working condition. But it is a serviceable tool now for me. I do feel like I need to take more metal off the cheeks right behind the bit. It's still a little fat there, and I feel like I'm getting a little too much glancing, especially when I'm coming in, you know, from my left. And I think just because I'm a little less accurate there, and then so it tends to glance and then slap, and you can kind of see where the paint is worn off from the slapping glance. So yeah, but anyway, there's the rick. Guess we can go around to the other side just to show. Super muddy, which is why a lot of the wood is very muddy. I did this much later in the season than I normally do. So yeah, there we go. Happy 2020, and thanks a lot for watching.